The Estadio Nacional disaster of May 24, 1964 is the worst disaster in football history. It occurred during a match between Peru versus Argentina. Over 328 people lost their lives and over 500 others were injured. The match was a qualifying game for the Summer Olympics later that year. Peru were second in the table before that match. The Peruvians were confident that they could make it through and qualify for the Olympics, but they would face Brazil in their final match. That meant that at least a draw against Argentina was needed to put them in the best possible position to make their way to Tokyo. 53,000 people were in the stands to watch that game. Despite playing at home, it was Argentina who took the lead. They then parked the bus for the remainder of the match, welcoming the Peruvian attack. With 6 minutes left of normal time, one of Argentina's defenders went to clear the ball, but Peru's Kilo Lobatón raised his foot to block the clearance. The ball ended in the back of the net, but the referee, a Uruguayan named Ángel Eduardo Pasos, declared it to be a foul and disallowed the goal. The whole stadium erupted in disbelief. They knew what was at stake and they had to make their presence known. A local bouncer known as Bomba ran onto the pitch and attempted to punch the referee before being stopped by police. Another home fan called Edilberto Cuenca also ran onto the pitch to express his disappointment with the referee's decision. Cuenca and Bomba were then attacked by police and brutally assaulted. The officers, who were Peruvian, began kicking them and beating them up. They also had police dogs biting them. This angered the crowd, who couldn't believe the police were doing this to one of their own. The crowd began to launch bottles at the officers on the pitch, and many invaded the field. Some who feared for their safety attempted to leave the stadium by heading down the stairs to an exit gate. However, when they got there, they discovered that the gate was closed, and so they turned back to go back into the stands. At that moment, police began to launch tear gas canisters into the ground. That resulted in people from the stands running towards the same tunnel to escape the tear gas. The tear gas canisters were mostly launched in the hopes that it would prevent further people from running onto the pitch. Instead, it caused those in the stands to panic, and a mass evacuation followed. The gates at the exits were made of corrugated steel rather than the more standard gates used in most football stadiums. They were impossible to break down, and those at the bottom of the sets of stairs couldn't escape being crushed. They were pushed against the shutters with no way of escaping, something that those at the top of the stairway had no idea about. Eventually, the sheer pressure of the bodies pushing up against the shutters caused a number of them to give way onto the streets, but it was too late. Anyone who had stayed in the stands managed to avoid death and injury, with all of the lives lost coming from internal hemorrhaging or asphyxia within the tunnels that led out the stadium. The destruction didn't end once the doors burst open. After they opened, those who had survived began to engage in a battle with armed police on the streets. The official number of deaths was 328 people, but it is likely that it was more than that, with numerous reports of people being killed by gunshot wounds. The day after the disaster, the government declared a 7-day period of mourning for those that had died. National flags were flown at half-mast, and all public events were cancelled. A decision was also taken to lower the capacity of the Estadio Nacional by roughly 11,000 down to 42,000.